Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, it seems I'll be talking about the critical incidents declared by the Port of Dover. Seems to be a little bit of a queue building up. Needless to say, the port and media are trying to blame the French. I think the reason may be a little closer to home. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So this will be a shorter video than usual because I don't need to labour the point, but I am going to keep pointing out these things as and when they happen. Schools are breaking up, lots of people going on holiday. For some, this means driving to the continent, or at least attempting to. We should also remember that freight will be trying to increase over summer as well and into autumn, and it's just going to explode as we get close to winter. The port has today declared a critical incident due to the queues leading to the ferry terminal. So the reports say the Brexit denying mainstream media, and I'm going to cite the article in the BBC, which tries to pretend Brexit isn't a thing under government pressure, but is not one of the rabid Brexit media. But they are citing Chief Executive of the ports, Doug Bannister, blaming the French for being insufficiently resourced. Now, I could point out that the reason why greater resources are needed now is because Brexit has imposed more time-consuming checks. In addition, this is nothing compared to what it's going to be like when biometric scanning is required of all non-EU citizens passing through later this year. If that project hadn't been delayed by the pandemic, it would already be in place and the news would be about it right now. I could also point out that the French are under no obligations to commit more resources just to make our Brexit easier. Because I think there's a more relevant point to be made here. It's all right saying, oh, the French should have more staff on. Why should they? We're talking about people leaving Britain to enter France. Isn't it up to France how it manages that process? I mean, Brexiteers are supporting our government to impede people travelling into Britain, even when it breaches international laws. It is an act of the utmost hypocrisy to have the nerve to attack France for not laying on extra staff that it is under no legal obligations to do so, just to help cope with the Brexit mess we imposed on everyone. Only 6 of the 12 passport booths at the Dover are currently open, the report says. And? So what? The question to ask is, would this be happening if we'd not left the EU? Yes, there was the odd day when traffic would be tricky, but did we have these problems as regularly and as seriously as this before we left the EU? No, we did not. A few days in the year, at very busy times, we needed traffic management in place. That was it, a few days of the year. That was it. This is something else. So people can whine as much as they like. They can blame whomever they like. This is a Brexit problem. They can try and argue that Brexit's still worth it if they want. But this is part of the cost of Brexit. If you want Brexit, you want this. That's what you're saying. You want this. You have, at the very least, have to accept it. If you don't want Brexit, then start discussing it with people you know. Help work on changing the public attitude towards this spectacular act of national self-harm. Because that's the only thing that stops it. Public attitude. Because I'll tell you one thing. People who fail to face up to the cause of a problem never solve that problem. Whine as much as they like. The problem isn't going away until we face up to it and apply the correct solution. And it's going to get worse. This is nothing. I've already said, when the biometric checks do fully come in, they'll be blamed then as well. Oh, they'll blame the EU for that. After all, it's an EU rule. Yeah, it is. They get to write their own rules. That's how it works. But there'll also be checks that we wouldn't have had if we were EU citizens. Recently, I saw news that an Irish passport is now the 6th most valuable passport in the world. Ironically, this puts it level with a UK passport. But in Britain, I'd say an Irish passport is more valuable. It's way easier to visit neighbouring countries with an Irish passport than a British one. I also saw in the article about the critical incident that this is just affecting Dover. It's not Folkestone, but we don't have any spare capacity at Folkestone. Oh, really? I had a little look. Looking at the sixfold truck times app, Folkestone also has a higher than normal queuing time. In fact, the queue was 2 kilometres when I first read the article. When I got to this bit of recording it, it's just gone to 3 kilometres. I'll put a graphic up, hopefully if I remember. It may be even longer by the time I'm editing the video. It's getting longer as I prepare this video. At Folkestone. The queue at Dover's also getting longer. Brexit has made us a very childish country. We're blaming others for the consequence of our own actions because we refuse to take responsibility. It's what a child does. We have a government that is not at all serious and also blames others for their own failings. I cannot stress just how bad we are making ourselves look on the world stage right now. I mean, I'll tell you something. The population of other countries is not having their media covering for Brexit. Because it's often the case. Mainstream media, they'll often cover for their own crap governments, but not generally those of other countries. Like the BBC, classic example. They will edit out all mention of Brexit when reporting on the consequences of Brexit, trying to suggest it's something else. It does, however, still carry out top-notch journalism when it comes to other countries. Doesn't cover for crap governments in other countries. The same is true of elsewhere. People in, American media, for example, may cover for their own government, but they're not covering for ours. So people in America are reading that we're suffering and that it's down to Brexit. People in Australia, same thing. New Zealand, same thing. Of course, in Europe, same thing. And it won't end until we face up to it. Until we have a serious national debate where those who insist on preserving Brexit are not allowed to ignore the consequences. If you want Brexit, fine, but you don't get to pretend that the costs are just the spiteful acts of those who are against it. So get used to finding it harder to leave the country. Get used to struggling to have access to the range of food we used to have. Just in the last week, Tesco couldn't get cucumber or tomatoes. Just couldn't get them. Get used to higher prices. Yes, there's globally higher than usual inflation, but ours is way higher even than that. Get used to poorer incomes because our GDP cannot power up due to lack of workers. Get used to it all because it's here to stay and it's here to get worse until we face up to it. But as I say, there's no need to keep going on. Just going to point it out. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.